Hello everyone, my name is Christy, and in this video I'm going to be stylizing and painting every single Pokemon in Generation 3. This video is coming out at the perfect time. It seems like it's coincidentally right at the start of the Arceus game release. That is completely coincidental, but super exciting nonetheless. So let's get into it. But before I talk about my journey with this piece and also about my favorite Pokemon and the games, let's talk the logistics. So this piece is on cold press Arches watercolor paper. It's 140 pounds, 300 GSMs, and it is cut into about 16 inches by 20 inches, which is 40.64 centimeters by 50.8 centimeters for anyone who is wondering. I used a 0.5 mechanical pencil to sketch, a kneaded eraser, and line art was done with black micron ink pens in a size 03. With the pens, I wanted to mention that cold press paper tends to suck out the ink really quickly, so I ended up using 3 pens for this entire piece. It was quite a journey with the pens. I just want to give you the heads up that for 135 Pokemon, it did take me about 3 micron pens to completely ink it. And to paint, I use my typical core watercolor paints, the set that I've been having since the dawn of my channel. Link to everything I use will be in the description box below. Alright, let's talk about the painting journey itself. So back in November, I was thinking about what kind of Christmas gift I wanted to give to my boyfriend. I wanted to do something handmade. Not everything was going to be handmade, but I don't like how materialistic the holidays get. So I knew I wanted to do at least one thing that was a little bit more homey, a little bit more personalized, right? So one thing that I had come across in my Pinterest and Google searches was this really cool poster of guitars throughout the ages. It was a bunch of different guitars, and since my boyfriend is a musician, I thought that would be a really cool piece to do. So I thought I would recreate that poster that I saw on Procreate. I wanted to do something digital. So I went ahead and started trying to draw guitars, and that quickly went down south. Guitars are really hard to draw. I think that hourglass figure shape is it's just not it. It's just very difficult. So once I tried to draw the first guitar 3 times, I was like, this isn't gonna do. So back to the drawing board. It was around this time that I was on YouTube one day and Casey Golden's drawing Pokemon from memory video was recommended to me. It was her first one. I didn't actually know she had a full series, but it was the first one that she did with the first generation, and I watched it and I was like, wow, that's really cool. And one of the reasons why I liked it so much was because one of the early things me and my boyfriend bonded over was our love for Pokemon. So needless to say, this seemed like a very special gift idea. And that is also the reason why this first video isn't Gen 1, it is Gen 3. That is his favorite generation. He was fluctuating between Gen 3 and Gen 4, but he seemed to lean Gen 3. I think it was one of the earliest games he ever played was with Gen 3, and he really enjoyed whatever game that was. So I knew that was what I was going to do. I'm not very familiar with Gen 3. I think I'm most familiar with Gen 1, and then everything after that is kind of like a blur. I was not going to do this from memory like Casey did. I liked the way that she stylized it, and I thought the way I was going to do it was look at all the Pokemon and see if there was some way that I could draw them that was a little bit more stylized and not just what I was seeing. So that way they could have a bit more character and be more unique. It's not a poster that he can buy anywhere else. It is something that I truly created for him. So I also wanted to make note then that this project took me about a month to do. I think I started right before Thanksgiving, and from that until literally the week of Christmas, where I was scrambling to get it done because it was taking much longer than I thought. So now that that little journey story is out of the way, let's move on to the process itself. I drew all 135 of these Pokemon at least 3 times. So the first time I drew them, I did a quick pen sketch in my notepad. I wanted to do just pen sketches to loosen up my hand and get a feel for them. After I did the initial pen sketch, then I went into my sketchbook, and this is where I really sat down with each character and really try to craft them and make them my own. This definitely took quite a bit of time to do. It was a very detailed drawing. They were not small at all. It was kind of how big I was seeing them. And for a few of them, I didn't like how they were coming out first few times, so I had to draw them like 3, 4, a few, maybe even 5 times. Now, putting them onto the final paper was probably one of the more difficult parts of this journey. Again, I cut this paper into a 16 by 20 sheet. I went ahead and I made a 15 by 9 grid. That is exactly what you need to get 135. And the grid ended up being 16 by 9, which I hadn't anticipated, but it was kind of fine to have more space. But at the same time, the rectangles of the grid ended up more long instead of tall. And that wasn't like the end of the world, but when I was drawing them in my sketchbook, I had anticipated that the grid would be longer. So a lot of the Pokemon that I had already drew was long up and down and not wide side to side. So that was kind of tricky because I was like, how am I going to fit this all in here when a lot of these Pokemon are kind of taller anyways? And then we got on to the painting process, which was ridiculously long. So I'm typically a slow sketcher and a slow painter. I just take my time with things. I think I'm usually nervous about messing anything up. With this piece, I had like the most random intrusive thought and anxiety that I was just gonna spill my paint water all over it multiple times. It was like every time I brought my paint water, I was like, something's gonna happen. I'm gonna mess up this whole thing and that's gonna be the end of it. It didn't happen, thankfully, but it was this intrusive thought that I couldn't get rid of. So painting always takes me a long time because I'm really thinking about how can I do this and not make too many mistakes. Now, I went out of the lines all of the time. I don't think there's a single Pokemon on this page that I didn't get out of the lines for. It was just a mess. But beyond this, my watercolor set only has 12 colors, which isn't too big of an issue. I've worked with this now for years and I haven't had a problem with it. I actually like mixing my own colors, and I think with watercolors it's typically expected that you're gonna mix something or other because you're gonna at least mix it with water. So I don't mind that, but because there were so many different Pokemon and because there's already so many colors, it was a lot of mixing, a lot of testing on a test sheet of paper to make sure the colors were coming out right. And then near the end, I got this like thought that maybe I should shade them. And then I said, no, I don't want to shade them because that's going to add like double the time to really go back, get the colors, darken them, add shading. But alas, the thought came into my head and I couldn't shake it, so I started shading them. So I do think it kind of helps out the end piece, like they look nice and refined. But yeah, that definitely doubled the painting times. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun as well. My hand definitely was hurting all of the time because it was just so much drawing and tracing and all that nonsense, but fun nonetheless. All right, that was pretty much it for the process. You're gonna just continuously see me working on it. I couldn't do the full thing at once because, again, this took me multiple days, and I thought it would be really hard to do a full camera setup when I wasn't even working on the same workspace every day. It was just a lot of working around, so you just had me kind of holding my phone and just kind of showing you a few of the specific ones just to kind of save some time. Now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the fun stuff, which is Pokemon favorites and all of that other good stuff. So my favorite generation is Generation 1. I know that is the cliche answer, but it is what I grew up on. It is what I know. And I don't really know all the other gens the way that you think I would. I haven't played all the games. I've only played a handful, so it's not surprising that I'm very limited in my Pokemon knowledge. But Pokemon Go on the phone has honestly opened my eyes to a lot more Pokemon, which has been really great. Favorite generation is Generation 1. I grew up watching the original anime, you know, with I wanna be the very best. The best theme song to exist in almost any anime, honestly. I think what really turned me off to the other shows when they kind of moved along into further generations was the changing of Misty. I was definitely Team Misty. I was a very big fan of her, so when they dropped her and added May and then Dawn, I just didn't care for that. So the very first game that I had was Leaf Green, and that was for the Game Boy Advance. And it was so fun for me. I never actually beat the game, which is really just a testament to who I am. The next game that I had, and I'm not sure the name of it to be honest, but it was the DS game. I think it was Diamond or Pearl. Don't really remember which, but I used to play that one a lot too. I remember thinking, wow, I can't believe we've gotten this far in terms of the graphics. So I enjoyed that game for a good long while too. Also didn't beat it, if you were wondering. And I did play the yellow version, the Pikachu edition. It wasn't a game that I owned, and that one was cool. I was always wondering why we couldn't have our starter Pokemon walk around with us. And in that one, for like the black and white Game Boy, you had Pikachu walk around with you, which was really, really awesome. So that's kind of my knowledge of the games. I didn't really play any games after the DS days. I do play Pokemon Go, and I did start that back in 2016. I dropped it for a little bit, and I just started it back up last year, but I've been having a blast just kind of like focusing on collecting the Pokemon, and especially during the holiday seasons, they give them little hats, and I like to collect the special ones with hats. So I've enjoyed that in terms of gameplay. Now, the moment that you've all been waiting for. What is my favorite Pokemon? Now that's the question of the hour. What is everyone's favorite Pokemon? What do you like? What do you enjoy? My all-time favorite Pokemon, and subsequently my favorite starter, is always going to be Charmander. Love Charmander. That was, when I was a child, that was the first one I picked. I remember seeing Squirtle, Bulbasaur, and Charmander and being like, who could pick anything less than Charmander? Which, I mean, at this point in my life, I'm kind of like, I think Bulbasaur is really cute. I definitely don't mind Squirtle, especially Squirtle with the sunglasses and Squirtle Squad. I think it's really cool, but Charmander was my fave. I thought that he was like the best that anyone could ever pick. I don't like Charmeleon. I don't like his design at all, but I do really like Charizard as well. That is my all-time fave. But if I were to pick like a second fave in Generation 1, because Charmander is just like the overarching in all generations, my second fave in Generation 1 would be Gengar. I feel like I have to mention Gengar. I have a Gengar plush, and I think he'd be really upset if I didn't mention his name, because I don't even have a Charmander plush. So Gengar, you're up there, homie. Love you. For Generation 2, again, I'm not too familiar with Generation 2, and I'm pretty sure I've seen the characters like in some episodes of TV shows or in the games, but I don't have any like hardcore favorites, or like I'm not as tied to any of the Generation 2 Pokemon as I am to like Generation 1 Pokemon for the most part, and my all-time fave. So wouldn't say that I have a hard and fast fave, but if I had to pick one, I would pick Sudowoodo. I think his design's really cool. In Generation 3, which is the generation I'm drawing here, I do actually have a favorite. This one has become my favorite in honestly Pokemon Go. I really enjoyed this Pokemon specifically. Always makes me laugh, always makes me smile, and I got to draw them here, so that was really nice. So my favorite in Gen 3 is Ludicolo. Just thinking about Ludicolo makes me laugh. Like in Pokemon Go, Ludicolo does this little shimmy whenever you like press on it in your Pokédex or whatever, and I think it's the cutest thing ever. This little Ludicolo shimmy with this big smile and the pineapple on the head, like, ugh, just perfect characterization all around. Love it. Gen 4, I don't have any ties. I won't go through my favorites for Gen 4, 5, and beyond, because I just don't know the Pokemon that well, and I don't really have a specific favorite for any of those further generations. So I'm not just going to go through it and pick one just for laughsies. But what Generation 4 does have, which is kind of funny, is my favorite evolution, which is Leafeon. I've liked Leafeon since I was a kid, so obviously Gen 4 has been around for a while, but Leafeon's design is like so cool. I think it's the prettiest evolution. I think Sylveon's pretty cool too, but Sylveon wasn't out when I was younger. Just such a cute design, and I don't know, I think Leaf Pokemon tend to be some of the cuter designed Pokemon, so big fan of the aesthetics, bro. And then in terms of legendary, I don't actually have a favorite legendary. Just before recording this, I looked at a picture of all the legendaries, and I tried to really think of ones that I've seen in Pokemon Go that I've been a big fan of. And I do like some of them. I have a few shinies in Pokemon Go, and that's been kind of nice. But if I had to pick a favorite legendary, it would probably be Mew. And honestly, I think the reason is because of like Pokemon's first movie. The first movie is just such an emotional roller coaster, and it's really great, and Mew's in it. So I think I'd have to pick Mew to go with the cliche answer, but I don't have any other that I would say is like up there in terms of I look at them and I love them. There's nothing like that for me. So at this point, hopefully we are wrapping up with the process, but thank you guys for coming on this journey with me. Again, it was a lot of fun. I don't know if I'll do this for other generations, but if you all thought it was cool and want to see more stylized Pokemon, maybe I'll definitely give it a go. But please let me know in the comments down below what your favorite Pokemon is. If you've seen all of the different gens and all of their iterations, tell me what all of your gen favorites are, what your favorite video game is, how you've been introduced to Pokemon, and if you have any sick collections. Rambling aside, thank you so much. Please, as always, have a great day, have a great week, and have a great life, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!